It's been, we're more than halfway through, man. We're coming into like the ending bit of Ramadan. And I think we've focused on taqwa the whole way through. And obviously, like I said yesterday, I was going to ask you guys to join us on the dua course. And just by show of hands, or just by putting a message into the chat, how many people have actually started the dua course? How many of you went on YouTube, found the dua course, and tried to actually do the course? Gee, by show of hands or by saying yes in the chat. Gee, one. Hamdan, do you not manage to get around to it?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I'm going to go on it, inshallah, after this. Before
No worries,
start.
no worries.
I'm
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
I didn't manage to get on it, but I will, inshallah, after this.
Okay, no worries. So what I want to do today is I really want to actually get onto that course and see how you guys did. For any of you that did do it, obviously we'll go through it. So today we're going to go through the course. So today we're going to go through the course, the dua course on YouTube, briefly what happens there. I'm going to kind of go over it, what you guys learn, what I learned from doing it. And then obviously we're going to go a bit deeper into dua. So what is really, really necessary for our du'as to get accepted, which is beliefs. We're going to look at the power of resonance, which we've done before, but I want to go into it again. I think it's a really, really powerful idea, man. Because resonance is very, very important. And when we look at the du'as which we have in the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, when he gives us du'as in the Quran, you have to have a resonance behind those du'as. You have to resonate with the du'a. It has to be somebody who you are, which is really, really important. And then we've got the practical side. So what we're going to do is we're going to practically together prime ourselves for du'a, and then actually go into the du'a process. So that's what we're going to do today. So I want to start with the du'a course. So some of you have gone online and checked out the YouTube course, isn't it? Now I'm going to recommend that those of you that haven't already gone online, I'm going to recommend that you go and check out the course, go through the intro and try and do it. It's 5 days and it's about 10 minutes of your time on a daily basis. I think I give you instructions for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then you have to find 5 minutes to actually do some writing, and it's quite practical and it's quite engaging. And for those of you that you can search on YouTube for the course, and I'll put it in the chat in a minute. So don't worry too much if you can't find the course. I'd recommend there's this thing you can do on YouTube called subscribing, and when you do that, you don't lose the channel. But anyway, I'm gonna go. So there's 5 days, and there's an introduction. So I'm gonna just go through what the introduction goes through. I know those of you that done the course will already know this, but this is really important. So the purpose of the course is to basically get clarity. Okay, that's a good point, Zaid. So it's called the power of dua. Yeah, I mean I'll send the link in a minute. Yeah, don't worry too much about it. But the main point is to gain clarity on how dua works. Yeah. So the way dua works is there's rules around it. So while we were growing up as kids, or even now in Ramadan, or we might listen to a talk on dua or something, and we'll learn how dua works. Yeah, someone will say, like the Prophet ﷺ teaches us in one hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts all of your du'as which are made when you're traveling. Anan, quick man. So the Prophet ﷺ accepts all of your du'as when you are traveling. So this is one, for example, this is one instruction we get about dua. Yeah. In other places, the Prophet ﷺ gives us certain times of the day where du'as are accepted. In other examples, so obviously this is a big, if you open a book of hadith like Bukhari or Muslim or any of the famous books of hadith, you'll find big sections where the Prophet ﷺ just speaks about how to get your dua accepted. And obviously there's a lot to learn kind of thing there. Like, I don't expect you to be experts on that. But the point of this course is to not only learn the rules. I'm not going to teach you the rules. Yeah, I don't really do that anyway. But the point of the course is to take this concept of dua and understand how it works, more in terms of your spirit and in terms of your connection with Allah, as opposed to like an actual physical rule. Does that make sense to everyone? So that's how this course is meant to work. So it gives you that clarity. So if you're making dua and you might think, oh, this dua isn't really working, I don't really see how this works, then it kind of helps you actually get in touch with how, from the moment that you raise your hands to the moment that you see that dua manifest, how that kind of relationship with Allah kind of goes. So that's the point of this course. And for those of you that are looking at the slide, or you should all be looking at the slide, it's basically everything on there. So it removes the ambiguity, increases the clarity, that's the same thing. And I think that that point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Point number 6, which is we have the rules of dua, which we learn from Quran. Some parts of the Quran talk about dua. Like even that verse we done about Ramadan, إِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي, whenever you make dua, I accept it. That's one of Allah's rules, for example. But then we have the actual experience, which is when one of you guys, let's say I sit down and we ask Allah for something, we say, can I have a big chocolate bar? And and then we ask for the big chocolate bar, and then suddenly there's not a big chocolate bar in our hands after we make that dua. So I know that may sound like a bit of a silly example, but there is that distance, there's that gap, and there's that experience and activation of understanding that how does the dua actually manifest in your life, which is a very, very, very important to understand. So that's what this course will do. So again, what we agreed yesterday is that I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with you guys who want to do it with me. So I've done it, and you guys have done it as well, but we'll go through it in a minute. So the rules which we have in the Quran, for example, that verse of the Quran, Allah says, إِذَا سَأَلَكَ إِبَادِي أَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, that whenever somebody asks about me, I'm close to him. Well, now you can't remove all context. You can't pretend that applies in every single scenario. Like if you're going to rob a bank and you're like, oh, let me ask Allah to help me, have like a good escape after I've robbed the bank, then your dua might not work in that scenario, despite the fact the Quran's saying that all your duas get accepted. So that's why it's important to understand how the context kind of happens. So that's what we kind of do in the intro. And for those of you who are going to go on YouTube, the most important thing is not to watch the video. And this is I know a lot of you find this hard to understand. And I know I've tried to explain to people this. The most important part of my course is not to watch the video. That's like secondary. The most important part is to do what I tell you to. So I'm going to tell you to write stuff down. I'm going to tell you to use your brain and think about things. And when you start using your brain, you're going to learn things about your spirit and see your spirit in a way like you've never seen it before. So it might not make sense always, the things I ask you to do, but unless you do them, you're not going to benefit from the course. So you may as well not do it. So it's really important. These points on the slide, the action points which I tell you to do, are more important than watching the videos. These courses are not about information. Like I've mentioned to you, in fact, most of what I teach is not about information. I teach based on learning through activations. Yeah, through noticing stuff which, being in the physical world and kind of racing through life, stuff which we usually miss. So for that reason, it's very, very important that when you go on YouTube and I tell you to do something which involves writing something down, ideally writing it in a comment section, if you don't do that, you're going to miss the point of the course. So you really do have to do the exercises. In fact, the course is the exercises. If I just said in one sentence, do this today, you'd be able to benefit from the course. Is everyone following? Yeah. So that's just the intro to the courses, how the course kind of works. And before we move on, basically, that's very important to understand. So basically, that's a little video before you do the course. You watch that video and it tells you how to do the course. Yeah. If you don't watch that video, you're going to do the course wrong. So it's important to watch the intro video before you start. So that's the first thing. And then we done day 1. Yeah. So yesterday was day 1. So you're meant to watch the video and do the exercise for day 1. Yeah. So how many people done it? Just a show of hands for those of you on the video, and for those of you who are not on video, just a thumbs up. Gosh, man, lazy people you are, innit? No, I'm joking, man. I'm sure you've all got good excuses. Arif say, Assalamu alaikum, Arif. How are you, man? You have to speak, man. You can't just hide in the back. Noorein's here as well. Noorein, assalamu alaikum. Usman Makki, mashallah, that's a nice selfie on there, man. Next to a Mercedes. He's got a truck. Astaghfirullah, man. Everyone should be using Tesla trucks now, man. We have to save the planet. Elon Musk is saving the planet. We have to like get on board of this. Assalamu alaikum, Mudathir Khan. Dr. Mudathir, how are you, man? Good to have you, man. Good to have you. Are you working today? That's
Yeah.
all of our NHS workers, man, serving us so profoundly in these trying times. Noorain, assalamu alaikum. Noorain, you there? Arif, are you there? Well, Arif, you actually made it, man. MashaAllah, nice to have you, man. Kasme. Anyway, so what I was saying is, I'm not going to go back to what I was saying. I'm going to go on to day one. So day one, on that YouTube course, on the power of dua, we, for those of you that can read the title, it's awareness increasation process. So this is not about new information like I mentioned. This is increasing your awareness of your dua at the moment. Yeah. So I'm not teaching you how to make dua, but your dua is your dua. It's how you speak with Allah. It's your communication with Allah. There's no point me knowing about it. You have to know how you make dua. And if at the moment you're not really that sure, well, we're going to spend, according to the course, we spend 1 day, but in reality, maybe 2 or 3 days, figuring out where your dua is at the moment. Does that make sense to everyone? So what we do in day one is I ask you the question, how do you make dua at the moment on a daily basis? You've got 24 hours. So in 24 hours, how do you make dua? In how many different ways? Yeah. So for example, you might raise your hands after praying and ask for Allah to give you a big bar of chocolate. You probably don't actually. But for example, you might pray and then make dua that you get whatever you want. You might ask Allah to help you in certain ways. So that's one of the ways that you make dua. The other thing is, obviously, whenever we pray, we recite Surah Fatiha. Surah Fatiha is a dua. Yeah, it's a build-up. We praise Allah and we understand who Allah is. So we have Alhamdulillah, and then like Allah is this, and Allah is this, and Allah is this. Then we declare how we relate to Allah, Iyyaka na'budu. And then we ask Allah for this really important thing called hidayah and guidance. Yeah. So every time we pray salah, we're gonna have a collection of du'as within our prayer. Yeah. That might be Surah Fatiha. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas is a whole du'a. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq is a du'a. And like Rabbanas, whenever they come in the Quran, they're all du'as. So there's different du'as in the Quran. Some of us may have like a morning du'a. So you might in the morning recite a morning du'a and recite an evening du'a. Some people may recite La ilaha illallah, for example, 100 times. Some of you may recite like a du'a for protection. Some of you might recite a coronavirus du'a, which is like you should all know these du'as, isn't it? But who knows the coronavirus du'a? It's not really the coronavirus dua, but it's kind of the dua for protection from any kind of evil things that happen. So that we could classify that as a morning and evening dua. And then we've got the segment duas. For example, segment duas actually have 2 types. You have segment dua before and after. Segment dua before will usually be taking the help of Allah before an action. So before you eat food, we have Bismillahi wa barakatillah, for example. After eating food, you have Alhamdulillahi alladhi blah blah after eating food. So those are segments. So the time that you're eating food, you're going to take the help of Allah before, and then you're going to thank Allah afterwards. These are segment du'as. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but just based on that, all of you should be able to, everyone listening now, should be able to identify different types of du'as. You should be able to have a heading, and you should be able to, below that heading, have the du'as which are in your life for that heading. Is that budgeting with everyone? Does that make sense? Yeah, so you've got praying salah, reading Surah Fatiha, asking for guidance, for example. Inside salah, sometimes we ask Allah to guide us, for example. Yeah, in Surah Fatiha. We declare that we're going to worship Allah. We might ask Allah for protection from shaitan when we say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitani Rajim. And mashallah, man. I do love it when people do that, Isam, what's going on, man? It's nice to have you here, man. Alhamdulillah. Salman says, well, good to have you, man. Good to have all the people that have joined and I haven't said salam to. But It's nice to have you people, man. Norain says, well, Norain, are you actually there? But anyway, man. Sister Nicola's joined as well. Assalamu alaikum, Nicola. And all these other people who are here.
Assalamualaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam. Oh, yeah, Wissam. What's going on, man? Good to have you people, man.
Oh, right, thank you.
Good.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Any questions so far? Or is everyone okay with what we've done so far? Yeah, I'll pause for questions.
Assalamu alaikum. Just one quick question. Is there a format of how we make what I mean is do we recite the ayahs of the Quran before we ask the dua that we firstly want to ask for us, and even within us, is it advisable that we ask for the ummah, followed by parents, followed by our relatives, and then finally to ask, is there a recommendation of how we do it?
So today I didn't want to go through the rules of dua. Yeah, so like I mentioned at the beginning, there's a variety of guidance we get. Yeah, so the guidance, there's two ways we get guidance on du'as. One is Allah tells us what dua to make. That's one way you get guidance. Or Allah or the Prophet. Yeah, either of them tell us like the wording. So they'll say Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. You say that dua, for example. That's one piece of guidance. So now we know what we should ask for example, to some extent, and how we ask for it. The other type of guidance is from like how when Allah explains the energy around a dua. So Allah will say, whenever you ask me, then I'll be close to you. Or whenever you ask, I'll accept your dua. Or the Prophet will say, ask at this time and you'll get accepted. So there's two types of guidance we have. Today, for today's lesson, I don't want to go into the guidance. Yeah, the purpose of today's lesson, if you look at the title of that slide, is to increase the awareness of your dua at the moment. We're not trying to change your dua. We're not trying to make your dua better or more optimized, or we're not aiming for perfect dua even. Yeah, all we're doing is at the moment, based on the current worship that you do, how much dua do you make? And how many headings can we put that dua under? Simple, just trying to understand our dua at the moment. Not increasing it, not decreasing it, not changing it, not getting better at it, not even like improving it. Just being aware. Because this is the biggest problem we have. We don't even know how many du'as we make every day. And that's what causes the problems. Before we go on to improving and how our dua should be, step one is, where is my dua today? So that's the purpose of day one. So those of you that are doing the course on YouTube, the purpose of day one, figure out where your dua is today. And obviously when you start writing this down, writing gives that extra clarity. Find a bit of paper. For those of you that don't know how to write with pens and papers, you use a notes app on your phone and write down some sections. So these are a couple of sections. So for example, you might pray salah, finish your prayer, and speak to Allah in English. Yeah, and ask him for the big bar of chocolate. Now obviously I don't mean big bar of chocolate, I mean you might ask him for a Bugatti Veyron, you might ask him for a 10-bedroom house, you might ask him for £1 million, I don't know, whatever you ask him for. But you speak in English and you ask for something in your life, quite direct. That's one type. The second type is where you're asking because Allah forces you to. Like you're praying, so you say Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, or you say Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, or you're kind of in tahiyya, at-tahiyyatu lillah, and you declare this, and then you you ask Allah to send salutations on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's a separate type of dua. You might want to do durood as a separate dua actually. In between your prayer, you might say Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. These are very direct du'as which Allah tells us to do in our prayers. At the end of prayer, Rabbana inna dhalamna anfusana, this kind of du'a. Then there's morning and evening du'as. Yeah, and then there's segment du'as. Now, all of you, I would recommend just taking out time to figure out what you're doing at the moment. Yeah, so then by the end of this exercise, you should give at least 10 minutes to this exercise. So you write down that what am I doing at the moment, and you have these few headings, and this list will grow over time. Like, you don't know at the moment. If this is the first time in your life you've ever thought about this, it will take you 4 or 5 days, maybe even a couple of months to figure it out. Yeah, if you've never thought about this before, that how many du'as do I make every day, you'll have to at least go through one day to even be in a position to answer that question. Does that make sense to everyone? And what I'd recommend is today, by you asking this question, that what dua do I do at the moment? Now, before 6 o'clock tomorrow, now your brain will be looking for the answer. Yeah, even if before it wasn't. So now instead of just going through it, you might actually ask yourself, okay, so I'm saying, when I wake up, I'm saying Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyana. Okay, this is a dua. Okay, so I'm praising Allah. This is one of the du'as for waking up. This is one of the du'as I'm making. Then we might think, okay, I'm praying Surah Fatiha. This is a du'a as well. Then you might think, okay, before I eat, when it's fasting breaking time, I'm making a du'a again. When it's suhoor time, I'm making a du'a. Before we break our fast, hopefully, most of you are finding time to actually raise your hands and ask Allah for things. That's another part of your du'a. And just bringing, what the point of this exercise is to bring a heightened awareness to these du'as. Because sometimes we don't actually realize what du'as are going on in our life. So that's the point of that. Does that make sense to everyone? And just on a very, very broad scale of understanding this. What I mentioned yesterday is that taqwa depletes. Yeah, I personally believe this, definitely. And I think everyone has probably already experienced this, that your taqwa goes up and down. It doesn't stay in the same place. Your iman goes up and down. Your connection with Allah goes up and down. Yeah, this is true for nearly everyone. It is true for everyone. So when you're praying, your taqwa goes up, your connection to Allah goes up. Then after you pray and you make dua, again your taqwa goes up a bit. But then now when you finish praying and now you're living your life, and you, even if it's Ramadan and you started watching Netflix and watch some slightly useless YouTube videos, and your taqwa went down a bit and it depletes. So dua very often is a very good tool. Just like prayer is a reset for your taqwa, these smaller du'as can be like a mini reset for your taqwa. Does that make sense to everyone? Is everyone budging?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Habib.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah. So, Habib, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So, when I first met you and I said that I'd been saying Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah, that would be a dua.
Yeah, definitely.
So in effect, I could say that's probably what brought me to meet you in the first place.
Yeah, true, man.
Because if I kept asking that, then something's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah,
if
definitely.
I kept saying that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very often, a lot of the du'as, for example, like let's take a du'a for even going to the toilet. Yeah. So before we go to the toilet, we ask Allah for protection for when we're in the toilet, for example. And like when you think of it, it's not like you're not asking Allah to make this like a really enjoyable experience or something. You're just reconnecting with Allah, just because usually we're so disconnected. So the dua is a chance just to become aware of Allah. Yeah. And obviously the phrase which you mentioned, Ian, which is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, is kind of the most profound way to actually reconnect ourselves to Allah. Does that make sense to everyone? So dua, very often in these simple terms, are just little points which we reconnect with Allah in these little ways. And there may be different things. Like sometimes it might be more direct. The dua might be more direct. Like for example, you might be actually making dua for, I don't know, a specific problem in your life. But again, what's the dua doing? The dua is just getting Allah involved. Yeah. But anyway, man, I hope that's good. Any more questions before we move on? I hope that made sense, man. No questions about information, man. The questions have to be about how to increase awareness of the du'as you're making at the moment. Gee, so basically what I want everyone to be doing is, as a minimum, you should be able to find 10 minutes before tomorrow's lesson and write down these sections of the du'as. And I'm not asking you to like learn anything new even. Like this is journaling about your own life. So at the moment, how many du'as are you making? We're not going beyond what you're already doing. The problem with a lot of times when we try and learn about Islam, like we think it's so good to learn lots of new things, which simply is just not true. Like if you're not aware of what you're already doing, if you're already like under-optimized on what you're doing, then you need to optimize what you're already doing. It's not about we live because of the physical world, And because of we live in an if-then model of happiness. So we think that if I do like all these strange things, then I'll get this contentment and happiness and connection to Allah and taqwa, and then I'll be like blissed out, and angels will like fall down from the sky and come into the living room, and they'll be like, wow, you are transformed. But it doesn't actually work like that. It's figuring out who you are, which is what we're trying to do. So that's why it's very, very important to be aware of where you are before we try and go into the next step. Is everyone happy with that? Okay, so that's what day one was all about. So for those of you, anyway, so those of you that have done the course, you should actually now have a list of du'as. So let's get started, man. God, this is taking longer than I thought, man. But list of du'as which you're currently making. So this is day one. The question was, make a list of the du'as you're currently making. So what are the answers? Answers from the audience, please. So any du'as you're making at the moment. I've already been through some examples. But you guys, what du'as are you making at the moment?
I always ask for help for my family after I finish praying. So once I've finished my iftala, I ask for just for the good health of my family.
Good, mashallah. Very good. Anyone else?
I normally would say like to give me strength and ability to be to worship Allah Himself and to serve His creation.
Oh, that's a deep one, man. Service. That's good, man. I like the service one a lot. Let's move that in.
The COVID dua also I do nearly every day.
Good. Anyone else?
The COVID dua you said?
Sorry?
The COVID-19.
Oh, you make dua
for Allah.
COVID-19. So you want to get the coronavirus, yeah? So you don't have to have it later.
To have it to get rid of it.
You want to get rid of
the
it?
world or something.
Okay. So COVID-19 eradication.
Allah.
You want to eradicate COVID-19. I personally would not make dua for that. But anyway, anyone else?
To help those suffering, like in general, like around the world.
Good. So helping the ummah, yeah, especially the Muslim ummah and humanity in general. Good. Anyone else?
You could say to achieve your goals and stuff.
Goals. Okay. Yeah. So this is where it becomes a bit more into the actual physical world, isn't it? Gee, so these are all goals, man. So people want health, people want their family to be better, people want strength for worship. So yeah. So any specific goals? Who was that? Was that Hassan?
I don't know, it was me. Maybe like career or like education wise, stuff like that.
I think a lot of people like money, man.
I don't know, I wouldn't say I love money, but it's just nice to do something you really want to do.
Abundance. I think money, it depends how you define money. But if you define money as abundance, then obviously that's definitely, like if you don't have much money, you're not going to be able to do much.
Oh, of course, yeah,
So-
of course. But it's just in the terms of, there's no need to be greedy about it, or there's more than enough to go around type thing. As if you've got a lot, you have to help other people, because they're not in a situation like you, or in a position where you can, if you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of leverage, so you have to help other people with the leverage.
That's true, man. That's a deep point, Shade, man. Well, thanks, man. That's true. The thing is, because everything you've said, I think what you're saying is kind of like, just like a lot of the times we kind of have, because the reason this is difficult to talk about is because we haven't always thought about it too much. Like if someone comes up to you and asks, what is the main thing you want to make dua for? Well, the actual answer probably is, I'm not 100% sure, because we still need to think about it a bit. So sometimes these kind of things, they come in one section, which is kind of your career. I would say there's two sections. One is your career, which is what Hamdan said about service. Yeah?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, because the amount you can serve is going to be your career. Like, the skills which you're developing and the qualities which you're developing as a human are what it's going to be that which allows you to serve other people, isn't it? But the thing is, that same thing is also often what decides your financial life. So your career
definitely.
and financial life sometimes have a close relation. So if you're good at serving the world, you might have better control on your finances as well.
I agree.
So it's very important to. But the thing is, like, it depends how you think about it. Because if you realize that as human beings, we are co-creating our life with Allah, and our existence, we only exist to really, like, bring about the gifts which Allah has given us into the world, to manifest the gifts which Allah has given us.
It's amazing. Now these days, everything is video conference. Yes.
Yeah. Anan, man, Anan, you need to be on point,
now,
please.
I can hear. Well, that is to me, can. Yeah.
Gee. Anyway, so if anyone wants to speak, you can come off video conference. But that's a good little list we got there, man. Just what I was saying to Shahir, which is about the service, which is because if you make dua to become of better service, it comes back to Ian's first point, which is you make dua for your family. And if you actually realize that you play a massive part in your family, even for those of the younger ones here, we play a massive part in the way that our parents are. And our parents, obviously, for those of you that have kids, you decide the environment for your kids. So it's really, really important for us to actually realize how much we, based on what we do every day, contribute to the world around us, and realize that very often that is going to be our service. And when you make dua for it and you realize Allah, all you're doing as a human is being a vessel for Allah's gifts which He's given you, and you're meant to manifest those gifts into the world. So obviously Allah's going to help you do that. And if as a byproduct of that you end up with abundance, then that's something you can make dua for. But more directly, just to solve that on even if you ask directly, because if you don't have abundance, you're going to struggle to serve the world. So it's important to be aware of that. That's very often a block. There's a lot of unconscious energy around there. For those of you that I work with a bit more closely, you'll probably already have covered that. But definitely that's sometimes, when it comes to making dua, we need to think about that as well. But over the next 5 days, we'll get deeper and deeper into that, inshallah. Anyway, man, does anyone else want to add anything onto our list?
So yeah, also in terms of the COVID-19 eradication dua that Wissam mentioned, you did say it is a dua that you wouldn't make particularly yourself.
Nah.
Is that like what's the wisdom behind that, though, if I may ask?
I just don't think I know enough about it to decide whether or not it's a good thing to have at the moment. Like when Allah created the coronavirus, like I don't think I'm clever enough to know whether or not now's the time to get rid of it, or whether it's even good for it to go away. Like I don't know why Allah created it in the first place. So I'm not sure. Like I think it's a bit too direct for me to get involved in. I think that's Allah's decision, not mine. Personally, that's just my personal thing.
There's another dua I think I make all the time, and
against COVID-19.
That will also answer the question here as well. I make dua normally that Allah take away all the bad things from my life and bring in all the goodness. So it's up to Allah what He, in that way. I don't know. I'm unaware of what is good and what is bad. He's all wise, so He can decide what He's going to bring in my life and what He's going to take away.
True, man. Because even when we ask for hasana, I think Dr. Ramali mentioned make dua for hasana, ask for good things. If I'm honest, unless you're very, like, you've been really, connecting with Allah, really trying to figure out your spirit a bit, based on the physical world, a lot of people don't even know what hasana even means. Well, what is goodness? Like how do you know what's good for you? And to be honest, most of the time, some of the best things for you are the most painful things. In fact, the quickest, if you want to grow, you need to seek pain. You need to seek those things which really make you uncomfortable and push you not just to the edge of your comfort zone, but push you beyond your comfort zone. Things which hurt, man. And those are usually the things which are the best for you. And if you're going to say hasana, I want to live in like mansions and like have a cushy life, well, you're not going to grow. You're just going to you're going to be boring, basically. So the definition of hasana, I think Hamdan, you done that quite nicely, man. That was a nice summary. Thanks for that, man. I believe in that. There's a dua I want to come to later, actually, today. I actually asked my wife this earlier today. I was like, what's dua all about, man? And she said a nice response. And we'll come to that at the end, because I've actually put a dua in. When we come to the practical, I want to come to that, which is a dua which we actually ask for contentment. But that's a list which we've got now, man. Can everyone just turn their mics off, please, if you haven't already? Anand, can you make sure everyone has turned their mics off if they haven't already? These are my du'as. So this is obviously, I said I'm going to do this course with you guys. So these are my ones. This has taken longer than I thought, man. I thought we didn't have enough content for today. But anyway, man, these are my du'as. So my du'as, I thought I'd start with the morning. As soon as I wake up, Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyana. So gratitude for what's going on in my life. In Surah Fatiha, I ask Allah for guidance, because I'm a bit deviant, I think, sometimes. Before eating and after eating, taking the help of Allah before eating. Like, I don't know what I'm meant to eat, if I'm really that honest. The food which I'm about to eat, like, I need it to be good for me, man. I can't have food messing me up. So I try and, double check with my intention. And when I do that, it puts me in touch with the food. It means that I'm really careful with making sure I'm not eating things which are going to mess me up. So that's really powerful dua. Before you eat, Bismillah. After eating, gratitude for the food. Like, now I've eaten it. I'm not ill yet because of that food. Alhamdulillah, I'm not ill at the moment. Hopefully I won't get ill because of this food I'm eating. And also this food is going to nourish me to give me the energy to do what I actually need to do with my life. Before preparing for this class, so usually when I sit down and try and put this presentation together, I have no idea how to do it. So I usually make sure that I've got the help of Allah. I usually just say Bismillah. And it kind of helps just make me realize that it's not really me who's going to make this. I don't really know how to make it. And it kind of just comes itself after that. Dua for my taqwa and CTA. I think a lot of you covered this. Making dua for your own connection with Allah. Dua for taqwa. Dua for protection from shaitan. Dua for having Allah helping you. Istikhara. I was going to go deep on istikhara, but that's deep. So I want to do that as a separate slide. Istikhara is very, very complex. Like how you ask Allah for guidance. Before important things. So for example, before I have set times where I'll have like phone calls with some of my teachers and with some of my consultants. So now sometimes I'm paying a lot for these calls or for these consultations. So it means a lot to me. So before I go into those, I really want to know that I'm doing the right thing with having these people as my teachers, or having these consultants in my life for their advice, because I really want to get the most out of these conversations which I have. And what that does is actually, when I make dua before going into a high impact kind of thing, this happens before preparing for this class, or even if it's just a phone call with one of my teachers. It makes me detach from the outcome. So now I'm not as obsessed with making sure that, I get what I think I want. Because I don't know what I'm meant to even get. Like, if my teachers say things which I don't even agree with, like, for example, last Thursday, I have one of my favorite teachers in the morning. So I had this phone call, and he was really hurting me, man. The whole phone call was one of the most painful phone calls of my life. And he was telling me to do stuff which I really didn't want to do. And throughout the whole time, it's not what we'd describe as hasana, or fun, or enjoyable, or relaxing. It was very painful. Everything he told me to do was something which I didn't want to do. And there's no point having the call if you're not going to follow through on the advice which your consultant is giving you. So sometimes you have to just give up and realize that the advice which you're getting, or the advice you're choosing to bring into your life, it's going to be you're going to have to trust it. And you're going to have to go through with it and let Allah actually do the magic. But yeah, man. To be able to do, the next point, to be able to do gratitude every day, I find that really hard, personally. I usually manage to do it, but I need reminders and a lot of pushing to actually do that. Exercise is something which I find hard. In Ramadan, I'm trying to do it every other day, which is kind of intense 45-minute session. I usually like to procrastinate on that. But yeah, man, that's just a few things which I had on my list. As you can see, there's a lot of organizing which needs to happen. And that's basically what I learned from doing the day one of the dua course. But again, I definitely recommend going on YouTube, listening to it, and making your own little list of the dua. Does that make sense? Yeah, man.
Imam Habib.
Yes, Imran.
Just wanted to add one one thing that I include in my du'as is to ask for the maghfirah of all the people who have passed away, including my parents, and to reunite us in Jannatul Firdaus.
Yeah, man. I put that on my list here at the end. It's the last point on the list. Du'as from Quran and Sunnah. So I kind of have those set into my routine after a lot of the prayers. So a lot of those would involve forgiveness. Forgiveness is really important. And obviously paradise and being united with the people. So what these all do, I think the ones you said, forgiveness for the people that have passed away, it makes us realize how connected we are as human beings. And how much, just like I need forgiveness, the people around me need forgiveness. My family needs forgiveness. Even my grandparents who have passed away, they need forgiveness. So it just puts us back in touch that we're all just one with Allah. And also that that there's slightly more to life than what meets the eye. When you start asking for paradise, for a connection with Allah, for taqwa, for these kind of things. So I put those as du'as from Quran and Sunnah. And like I've mentioned before, the du'as which we make from the Quran and the Sunnah, they're much more likely to give you a really rapid, they're actually so deep. It's unbelievable how deep those du'as are. Because they give you a rapid shift in your identity. Like you're no longer just Mr. Human Being trying to pay the rent. You're Habib who's here to try and manifest the gifts which Allah has given you. Allah created you and Allah created you for a reason. And it just shifts your identity as why you even exist. So those du'as, Imran, I have to agree with you there, man. Those du'as are super powerful, man. All of them. But they're a bit deep, so sometimes we miss the actual point of them. But yeah, man. Is that okay, Imran? Sorry, man. I'm going...
Perfect.
These
I thought that is one of the key things that we can do for the people who have passed away.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So some of the thoughts which I kind of had, I thought I'd put this here, is that this is a lifelong process. Like learning about how we're going to do dua, we're not going to do it just in 1 minute. Like right every time, yeah, I'm an expert on how to make dua now. No way. Like dua is going to take a lifetime to figure out, and it will take a lifetime to become an expert on it. So I think it's super important, man, to be able to just take your time and realize that this course should be done 5, 6, 10, 15, maybe 20 times. Because you're trying to figure out something which is beyond us. Like when Allah speaks about himself in the Quran, he doesn't speak about himself as if we get him. He speaks about himself as if it's something which is beyond our understanding. In fact, in the one place in the Quran where the people came to the Prophet ﷺ and they asked him about the soul, not about Allah, about the soul which is within us, which is who we are. What was the response which the Prophet ﷺ was told to say to the people? وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. The people are going to ask you about the soul, and you basically tell them, I don't know much about it. It's something to do with Allah. It's abstract. It's like there's so much to figure out about it. And that's sometimes what we miss, man. And if I'm honest, I found this process, I found making this list so much harder than I thought it was. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be that hard. I thought, yeah, I know my du'as. And then, like, to make this list is hard enough. We could spend 4 or 5 days on day one. We've run out of time, people, man. But yeah, man, that's just some of my what I learned from doing my own course. Some of you, like, I tell a lot of you I do my own courses. Some of you don't believe me. There's a reason I do my own courses, man. But yeah, man. We don't have time, man. I want to do practical. Should we do practical? Let's do practical, man. Yeah, man. Let's do practical. Let's come on to this slide here. Gee, so what I want to do is just, for those of you that are close to a window, just look out the window. We're going to look at the sky. Oh, it's clouds today, man. Gus me. It's clouds. Clouds. Some of you might be able to see the sky as well. So there's a bit of blue sky in Chelmsford. I don't know what it's like in Colchester. We've got people from Bradford here as well today, man. And other parts of the country. Some people from Brighton. AJ's from Brighton, innit? People from Chelmsford, Colchester, Clacton. Ian's from Harwich. Arif's from Bradford. I think this is from Leicester. Anyway, man, wherever it is, take a look out the window, man. Try and see how Allah created the sky. And take a look at the clouds, man. What colour is the sky? And what are the clouds saying? And if you got little babies around you, take a look at the babies, man. Babies are amazing creations of Allah, wallahi, man. The Prophet ﷺ says that babies are on the fitrah. They get corrupted by the dunya that we live in here, this messed up world. But they're so much closer to how Allah created human beings. We get messed up by the world around us, and then we think like we have to chase things, we think we have to become all special, and we think we need this. But yeah, man, babies just, it's valuable to spend like 5 minutes just with babies. And just, they don't care as much. They're not so obsessed about impressing everyone else. They're just who they are. They're a soul and a spirit having a human experience. Beyond all this like impressing the world and what Coca-Cola teaches us to do, man. Like, when you watch adverts on TV, like we just talk, everyone's trying to sell you something. Innit, man? Innit, Salih? What are you saying, man? Anyway, man. So just try and take a breath and get a bit in touch with your body, man. As well as now by looking outside and looking at the sky and looking at the trees, you might become aware of how Allah creates things. Just take a breath and think of how Allah created your body, man. And take your time. Notice your breath come in through your nose. And follow your breath out as well, man. Take your time with this. This is really important. Take your time, man. 3 more breaths, please, everyone. I'm going to check the chat. 2 more breaths. Just follow the breath in through your nose. Keep your consciousness on the breath. And then follow the breath out and keep doing this. And notice this is not a waste of time. This is really important. If you're out of touch with your body and the way that Allah has created your body, and you need to take like 2 or 3 minutes to get more in touch with your body, then it's a worthwhile investment. Okay? Are you okay? You hurt your ankle? Be okay. And then I'm just gonna, this is kind of partially a gratitude exercise. It's a very quick one. But just being grateful for where we are. And I was going to talk about resonance, but resonance is the importance of realizing that we need to be grateful for what we already have and where we already are and what Allah has already given us. Because we live in a world which teaches us to look beyond what we have. Isn't it? So as soon as we do that, we need to sometimes just take 5 seconds to do the opposite. And instead of saying, what do I not have and what's wrong with me and what's going bad, say what's going right, what do I have and what's going good. And just follow 1 more breath in. Bring that attention to your breath. And I'm going to read these questions. What if, I want you to ask yourself, and remember when we're asking these kind of questions, don't try and figure out the answer. You don't know the answer, man. Just let your soul answer. Please don't let your mind ruin these questions. Sometimes we're very logical and we're like, yeah, I know the answer. You don't know the answer. Just pretend I'm telling you as a fact you don't know the answer to any of these questions. So just let the answer come from something which is bigger than yourself. Not from yourself. Yeah, sorry for shouting at you. That doesn't help with relaxing and breathing, does it? But anyway, man, remember to breathe. So what if I am exactly where I'm meant to be today, man? If everything that's happened in your life so far, everything which has happened in the past 10, 15, 20, 30 years of your life, every single experience which you've had in your life, what if every single one of them was exactly what was meant to happen? None of them were a mistake. In fact, ask yourself, how can I trust that in reality I'm actually ahead of schedule? I'm ahead of where I'm meant to be. And ask yourself this next question. This is an important question, this next one. How come I love my illusion of control? How come I love thinking that I control my life? How come I love thinking that I decide what happens in my life? Why do we love the illusion of control so much? We know Allah created you and Allah decides everything that happens in the world around you, and Allah created the coronavirus for a very, very, very important reason, for it to teach you the most important lessons of your life probably so far. So why do we think that we're in control so much? And how much do we really believe that Allah is in control? And again, just breathing, giving time for the answers to come. I think it's Sister Gulsen, who's also a revert, I think. Sorry, I don't think she's a revert, but she said something really beautiful. The answer comes from the collective mind, so it's not just your soul. That's why I do these Zoom classes, and I don't just record my video and put it on YouTube. Because it's about the community. It's about you guys being here live and deciding that we're going to sacrifice some period of our life to connect with Allah and actually sort our life out. And when we do that together, we have a collective help from Allah. Anyway, man, how do I trust that Allah's on my side? How do we ask ourselves that question? How do we let go so much that I'm not in control, Allah's in control, and He's helping me live my life properly? And how would we behave? How would Habib behave if he truly believed that despite what I do, regardless of how badly I mess up, regardless of how off topic I go, regardless of how badly I go off script, I'm still doing exactly as Allah planned? If I believe that, wouldn't I really be able to trust Allah and just let go? And again, I want to bring that question again, man. Why do we love the illusion of control so much, man? Maybe there's an answer here. Maybe the reason we're scared to give up control and be happy with what Allah's given us and with who we are and with our soul. Maybe the reason is because we feel that if I give up on control, we might become lazy. When we surrender to Allah, we might become lazy people and we might do nothing at all. For those of you that think that's a sensible thought, I just want you to just take that thought and just, using some kind of symbolism for your soul, just destroy that thought. It is not a clever thought to have. Surrendering to Allah is not going to jeopardize your progress in this world in any way, shape or form. It really is time just to surrender to Allah. Anyway, man. And just on a deeper note, we're going to skip a couple of the questions. Just moving on to the last question on that slide. The last question, yeah. Isn't it true that the world, given the condition the world is in, it needs the unique gifts which Allah has given you, given me? Ask yourself the question. The world needs the unique gifts which Allah has given you. Your wife needs you, or your husband, your spouse basically, needs for you to start manifesting some of the gifts which Allah has given you so that your relationship can become better. Your kids need you to improve so that you can serve them in a more powerful way. Your parents might need you to improve so that you can serve them in a more powerful way. Your extended family may need you to become a better human and become better at surrendering to Allah, manifesting the gifts which Allah has given you in a better way so that you can become a better human being. And you can extend that to every human being around the world. You can extend that to your career, to your job, to the people who you serve, however you serve the world. If you're a taxi driver and you serve the world by taking somebody from A to B, then those people might need an enhancement of that quality of taxi driving. If you're a doctor who saves people's lives quite literally, directly, then how is that going to be enhanced? But just asking yourselves that question, that how thirsty, how desperate, how desirous is the world for your gifts, which you need to give them. But these are just some of the questions, man. We can spend like the whole hour doing this. I think tomorrow we'll do a bit more practical, man. But this is why dua is so powerful, man. If you underestimate what dua is, your communication with Allah, your relation with Allah, your awareness of Allah and your ability to surrender with Allah, if you underestimate that and think it's important to learn new things all the time, then we're gonna like we're going to jeopardize the whole ummah, basically.
Habibi, I have a question.
Anyway, man. Chalo, yes. This was the dua, by the way. Just before we come to the question. This was the dua which I brought up, which is important. I think, because Hamdan mentioned something like this. Allahumma qannitni bima... This is one of the duas from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Qannitni bima razaqtani wa barik li fi. So, make me content with whatever you've given me. This is important because usually we're not content with what Allah has given us and we want everything which Allah hasn't given us. So it's a really important dua. Make me content with what you have given me. So bring more attention to what Allah has given you. وَبَارِكْ لِي فِي, and give me blessings. وَخْلُفْ عَلَيَّ كُلَّ غَائِبَةٍ لِي بِخَيْرٍ. And at the same time, وَخْلُفْ, this is from the word khalifa, to give a vicegerent, to give an exchange. Give me something better in replacement of everything which you didn't give me. It's a bit hard to translate the Arabic, man. Give me something better in replacement, basically for everything which I think I was meant to have. Make sure I get something better. So, وَخْلُفْ عَلَيَّ كُلَّ غَائِبَةٍ, replace everything which I haven't been given with something better. Sometimes we become fixated that I want this, I want X. And I don't want Z and I don't want Y, I want X, I want this thing, I want this chocolate bar, I want a Bugatti. And we become so obsessed with it that Allah at the same time, while you've been focusing on this thing, He's been giving you Y, Z, A, B, C and the whole alphabet. But you've been so focused on X that you've missed everything else which has been coming into your life. So this dua is pretty good, man. But yeah, man, sorry, man. I think we've gone over time, man. I've got a meeting. They started at 6:45, their meeting. And I told them I'm not going to come, but they want me to come. So they said they're going to wait for me. So I said 7:10. So I've got about 2-3 minutes. But yeah, we're overrun. But Jazakallah, man, everyone. I hope that was good. Anand, can you make me host before you leave, please? But yeah, Jazakallah, man. I hope everyone learned something today, man. And hopefully you've learned something which you can teach to other people. Barakallahu feek, man. Good to have you, man. Good to have everyone, man.
Assalamu alaikum.
I had a question in the comments.
Yeah, question, man. You can ask your question, man. If everyone can leave silently, and we'll just do a Q&A for a couple of minutes, inshallah. Yes, Salman.
Hello.
Salman.
I actually wrote it in the comments. I wrote it in the comments if you want to read it. Or I could repeat it.
Yeah, repeat it, man. Repeat it.
Alright, okay. So like, when you make dua, is it best to like acknowledge what you do have first before asking for more?
Yeah, man. And again, this is like, yeah, man, that's so true. 100%, 200%, like 100%. But the thing is, that's like, it's funny you ask the question, because if you look at Surah Fatiha, which is a dua, it starts off with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. You just acknowledge everything which Allah has given you. And even when the Prophet ﷺ teaches us to make dua, generally you find you start with Alhamdulillah, you start with praise, and then what do you do next? You send salutations on the Prophet ﷺ. If I was to I don't like giving rules all the time, but if I was to give rules for dua, number one, you have gratitude, Alhamdulillah. Number two, salutations on the Prophet ﷺ. Then you think about what you actually want Allah to help you with. And the reason salutations on Rasulullah is so important is because he's your role model in life. Isn't it? If if the thing you're making dua for goes against the sunnah.
It's not bad. It's not that excellent, but it's okay.
But yeah, man. Shalom, man. Any more questions? I hope that answers the question on Salman.
Habib.
100%.
Yes, Zaid.
You said about just surrendering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that mean just letting go of all the possibilities you might screw up? Or is it I don't really understand what you mean by actually surrendering.
Okay, Apple, I got this.
Oh, okay. Sorry, man. I think I'm host.
I got this, Apple. I got this.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So Zayd, basically you're saying, so if you surrender, Sorry, I've muted myself now. So Zayd, basically what you're saying, if you surrender, then that means that, yeah, this is a deep question, Zayd, man. It's a long answer, man. And we kind of went into this.
Answer could go on for days.
Yeah, man. Bring it. So ask me tomorrow. I'll answer it tomorrow because it's a long answer. But I think, in short terms, when you bring the sunnah into it, like you're not meant to surrender. Okay, you're meant to have goals. Yeah, you're meant to aim to be the next Elon Musk and colonize Jupiter. Okay, you know that about me. I've taught you 1-to-1, so you know that quite deeply, how much we love Elon Musk, yeah? But the point is, we're meant to have massive goals, like Google. Google decided we're going to organize all the world's information. Brilliant, thank you. And we're grateful for them. But you're meant to have massive goals, and your goals are meant to be beyond what's even possible for you to achieve. Yeah? The problem happens when we become attached to the goal. This is where a problem happens. In essence, Elon Musk is not attached to colonizing Mars. That's why he's going to do it. Does that make sense? Like, we forget the sunnah so much, man. What the dua is meant to be, you believe in your vision and your dua, and you believe in it firmly. And the vision is meant to be so massive that it's not even possible for you to do. Because you're not even going to do it. It's going to be Allah who makes your vision come true, not you. You're going to make dua for it, and you're going to do a bit of action, but Allah's going to make it happen. The problem happens, we make dua and we think small, and then we're like, oh, I need to pay the rent this week, and then we don't pay the rent, and then we say, oh, I can't pay the rent, and then we get sad and depressed, and then because we become attached to the outcome. So what gratitude does is it says, wow, you've got so much great things going on in your life. You're already brilliant. So that means you don't need to be attached to something which you don't have. So it allows you to now have a vision, but not worry when you don't get there on day one. You're going to get there maybe 10 years down the line, maybe 20 years down the line, maybe 100 years down the line. Maybe you'll die and your vision is actually going to be taken on by people by your kids or by your community or by your followers. But we get attached to like, oh, I want to have like 1 million followers. I want to, get £1 million tomorrow. We just because of that attachment. So what gratitude does and surrendering to Allah, it allows us to get rid of that attachment. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is get a big goal in your life, and
yeah. But today's lesson wasn't about big goals. Attached. The only reason you're even asking the question, Zaid, and let me be straight up with you, because I can be. The reason why are you so obsessed with getting something?
No, I'm just trying to work out what you're trying to like.
Okay, good. But okay, I'm not trying to say it in a bad way. Let me say it in a nice way. The reason you the thing is, the reason you want something which is beyond you, which is not a really bad thing. It's not bad to want something beyond yourself. When the Prophet ﷺ came to the Battle of Badr with 313 people against 1,000, like the odds weren't in his favor, believe it or not. Yeah, so now the outcome is beyond what's even possible. The same happens like throughout the seerah. This is one of the most common. In fact, if you were to study seerah in depth, probably one of the most common sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ you find. This happens like every year, where he does something which isn't even possible. But he doesn't obsess over it. The Sahaba don't get depressed when they don't get it. When they went for Hudaybiyah, like I want to bring this to Sunnah because some of you are probably thinking he's talking about Elon Musk, not the Prophet. But the problem is, the reason this is a problem is because when Muslims leave the Sunnah and non-Muslims start following the Sunnah more than Muslims do, then we start thinking that the Sunnah is actually not even the Sunnah. When the Muslims went to not to conquer Makkah, they went to do Umrah. Yeah? So all the Muslims were like, yeah, we're going to do Umrah. Yeah, this is really good. And what happened? What happened?
Well,
they couldn't do Umrah, yeah?
They got stopped.
The big goal wasn't achieved. So what did they do? Did they all become depressed and like, oh no, Allah's not with us anymore. Allah doesn't help us. Allah doesn't like us. We surrendered to Allah and said, yeah, He's going to let us do Umrah, but He didn't let us do Umrah. So now we must all we're probably not even Muslims.
May I say something? Brother Habib.
Yeah, sorry, Gulsan. Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is the thing. The people missing that. Everything in the earth, in our lives, given us as a temporarily.
Yeah, man. That's true, man.
Yeah.
That's true, deep, man.
This is the that we are taking. This is the wrong side. Given is not ours. It's not belong to us.
True,
This
man.
is the attachment that we need to have all the time in our life. There is no, there is no this option in our lives. We already feeling ourselves as a loser if we lose something in our lives. You know my story a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is the reality that we need to know.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have. We shouldn't say that I bought this. This is belong to me. I made this, especially for the kids.
True, Sister Gulsen, man. That's really true, man. I can't really agree anymore with what Sister Gulsen's saying. The problem is I have to kind of go because I've got another meeting. If you want, I'll leave you guys here and you can talk to each other, man. But I'm going to have to leave.